I've figured out the shape I want to turn my neck. All right. And I've marked it at this end. And so I've spent a lot of time, and really I just drew it freehand how I wanted it to be, like this. And then I figured out the points I would need to get it. So I'm going to redo it on this side so you can see what I'm doing. We're actually just using the center. We only want to turn the neck, not this entire piece. So we know right here, that's where we glued on. So we know that's the width of this piece. And this piece was whole. So I can just hold this drawing up to this. And so I'll mark that here and here. Okay, so that's the width I actually have down here to work with. Now on this drawing, I just kind of drew what I wanted. If I went to the center point and I just drew a circle, right? If I came here and then I just brought it up to this point and I just went over to here and I made a circle, I'd have a half circle. Necks aren't usually half circles. They're more D shapes or kind of U shapes. So what I did is, just messing around, I picked a point right here. And then I knew that I will always go from the information we know. I know that I want a 1 inch or 7/8 to 1 inch from here. So I need to get at least that distance. So I went 1 inch from here to here. So I know that's my furthest point out. I want it kind of U-shaped or flat-shaped here. So I'm going to move away from this curve back to here. So it's a little bit, the further on this line, A line, here's A line, B line. The further I move back on this A line, the bigger the compass, I have to open the compass, and the flatter the radius is. The closer I get to center, the rounder the radius is, okay? So I moved back just a little, and this is going to give me a flatter line than if I had just gone to the center point. So there's one of my offsets right there. I'm offsetting from center there. Then I went to this B line over here, and I set the compass to here. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. So I did that to there. And then I like to use these dividers. I carried that same distance to this side. And again, I'll set this one and carry these lines to this side. So this is all about accuracy of line. So these dividers are kind of key to that, because every time you measure, you take a chance that you measure incorrectly, or at least I do. I know that's true for me. So now I'm going to come to my actual piece, which is right here. And I need to make a center line. So now that I've figured out where it is on this paper, all I have to do is set points. So I'm a little bit different here and here. So I'm going to set this point first from the center point, and you want to be as accurate as you can. From the center point to there, from the center point to there. So here's my A axis, just like on the paper. And here's my B axis. So that's going to give me, if I set it up just exactly as it is on the paper here, always remembering the point of the compass, I can't stress this enough, the point of the compass is actually the metal point on your centers on your lathe. So that's the center of your spur drive and the center it also represents the center of your other end and your tailstock of your live center. The pencil always represents what you're cutting, so you can move it in or out, because if you were cutting, you'd be cutting, well, you wouldn't be coming out because you would have lost the wood, but you could always be cutting in. So you have to think of it that way. So I've transferred this to the distance out here, and I'm just drawing this so when I'm turning it, I know what I'm going to. So that's going to be my first cut. And then I'll come over to this side. And if I think I want to use this also as a neck, I can set points over here so that I can do the other side also. But if you just want this to be a sacrificial piece, you can just turn one side. Now I set my dividers to this B side, and I've set that to, because I wanted this kind of U shape, right? So there's that, and there it goes there. And I want this kind of U shape that will come right up from here and down. Now, sometimes I have to actually carve a neck by hand because there's no lathe sometimes when I'm teaching. So the way you actually carve a neck is you just start making marks and cutting facets, and you just keep cutting facets until you get to the shape that you want. And it's pretty accurate. You're using pencil lines, but it takes forever. You're doing it either with a draw knife or with a file or a rasp. So there's my neck. So it's going to be kind of U-shaped. And then here I have I have to reset this, make sure, come back to this distance. Everything, if you put everything on paper, you can always go back and you can say, oh, where did I go wrong? Those are my points, and I have to be really clear about those points. There they are, right there, and my center point. So once I get those on, I'm ready to go. All right, I'm back at the lathe, and here's my piece that I'm going to turn. And I cut this out of my original drawing. It's the profile of what the piece is going to be like, just to remind myself of what I'm going for here. So this is great because I can now, because it's on paper, we know this is 1 inch and we know this is 7/8. So I'm just going to keep track of those measurements while I'm turning. That means I'm going to have to make a little bit of a taper as I turn. All right, I'm going to start with that first curve, right? I'm going to set off our A axis, and I'm going to come behind the center and project the piece I want to cut toward me. Now I'm going to secure this into my two centers. Both of my centers, I only use a steb. It's this really great, it's spring loaded. So the beautiful thing about it, and this tailstock is spring loaded, so you don't have to grab pieces so hard that they bend. It's great for when you want to turn things that are thin so they don't flex. But it's also great because these teeth are very sharp and they grab. So for offset turning, we always want at this end a cup live center, or we want a steb live center. If we use a regular cone center, it splits wood. But anything with a cup pulls the wood in, and in offset turning, that's what we want. So I'm going to hit the A axis on both ends. That's in the poplar. And I'm going to make sure that I really hit my points and that I'm not off my point. If I'm off my point a little, I won't be centered. And I'm going to tighten that in so that I know that it's catching. All right. So that's projecting this forward a little bit. And I'm going to come put my tool rest close into here. Now, what I have here is this really sharp edge coming to me. So it's cutting here, not cutting there, cutting here. So I'm going to start by just doing a pommel cut into here. That's our curve that we want to do here. I'm going to come down here and cut a curve in. And what that's going to do by putting those in first, when I come along with this tool, I'm going to be using a roughing gouge to turn the bottom of the neck. When I hit this side, I won't be hitting a corner like this with this edge. So it's less dangerous if I get rid of those right away. So when I make this pommel cut just means going from square to round. Any place in your turning that goes from a square point to a round point. I'm going to really just kind of come up to the tool rest here, and I'm going to hold my hand really tightly like this, and I'm going to lever into the cut like this. So what I'm really doing is turning the tool sideways. So here's the flute, and the flute is totally facing the wall over here. So I'm totally sideways, and the angle of my bevel is what I'm going to cut. For instance, if my curve right now, if I want to cut a curve that's like this, then I actually put my bevel, not my tool. So it's not, my tool isn't like this, my bevel, the flat of my bevel is going to follow around this curve. So I identify where that is before I start, and as soon as this starts, I'm going to actually I go at this corner, and I'll work my way back. Now I have to stop and check often because I know this distance, I want it to be 1 inch. So I want to make sure I'm not losing that distance. So that's really, I'm just barely cutting this before I offset my other part. So here, I'm going to go in a hair more here because this is the headstock and I need to go to 7/8. So I'm just going to true this up a little bit. But I'm just going to come back, and I have a little bit of a part I have to catch right here. So you see I've totally cut here, but here, because this is offset, it's not cut in the same way. All right, so there's that pommel cut. Now I'm going to come over here and cut this pommel just to get these sharp rotating parts out. A bit away, but I'm going to put the tool rest parallel to the line I want to cut. So pretty good. There's some little ridges, but we'll get rid of those. I'm going to go to the B setting. Stop often and check. You don't want to go too far. So this would be better if I went to the roughing gouge, and I'll just come down a little with the roughing gouge and then come back and finish this until I hit this line. So I have this tool rest in the same position, so if I should be able to go straight in a straight line. I'm still this far away, a little bit away. Okay, so I hit it. So now I got to hit it from this side. Okay, good. So that side is done. Now I just offset to this B side. Again, I'm going to start just by hitting this a little bit and this a little bit so it's not in my way. So there I have it.